But just take a look at this!
So am I the only one that notices that a lot of this game is booty shots of Sam?
Don't come! Don't come! Don't come! Don't come!
Alright, and those sound drops were taken from House of the Dead 2 and have no other suggestive ideas behind them. It's all in your head. But I digress as we go into this nice Heartworm the Walking Simulator level. Okay, so this is a very different feel from where I left off in my last Let's Play. Kind of jumping around here, but that's okay because so does this game. So, a lot of the hubbub about Heartworm that I've seen, people who are being haters about the game, have talked about the fact that it doesn't really check the boxes in the survival horror genre. Which isn't really the point, and I think if you're going to look at it through those eyes, then you probably, this game is not going to be for you. If you need 20 different enemy classes and 15 different mods for the camera and all these different ammo types and just this deep crafting experience, then yeah, you're not going to like this game. But it is about the experience, and this is kind of a good showcase of what makes this game interesting is just how diverse these levels are. So this is the wilderness level, which is probably about the third major level, and we get kind of one of the first item or enemies we fight here is these statues that have two interesting abilities. One, they can imprison you within this steel spike or stone spike, and they can send stone waves at you. So you really just gotta lay into your auto burst feature, which hopefully you got in the first level, and just lay into them until they crumble. You want to try to avoid the waves and just, they move slow enough you can kind of just burst at them and either take one shot and get yourself out of there or just make them crumble. They don't soak up a lot of ammo. So one of the survival horror tropes that it does check is when you get down to orange level of health, you'll start to get a long loping walk, like Sam did get bit by somebody from House of the Dead 2, somewhere sensitive. And it's annoying enough to make you use a first aid kit, which you should do because by the end of the game you will have about 35 first aid kits saved up. So here we just have this very idyllic setting of some vacation from Sam's past. So you have all these jumping fish and cabins and good old vacation-y vibes going on. A lot of these texts that aren't for flavor have your typical kind of puzzle format. Oh good, a music puzzle. Tone-deaf people like me love music puzzles. Yeah, I'm not gonna do this. Can we get a ringer in here? Can I call for a pinch hitter? Has anyone seen Rebecca?
Practice makes perfect.
What's this?
Nice work, Rebecca. I don't care what Wesker said about you after he took that awkward basketball picture of you. Regardless, now with that puzzle out of the way, which is your standard read a note, circle the first letter of every word, and translate into notes puzzle, we can go check out what the hell is behind that waterfall. People who put waterfalls in video games feel a unhealthy compulsion to put crap behind them. There's got to be like a pill or something to alleviate that. Some form of Tourette's or something. You get twitchy if you don't put something behind the waterfall. So this launches us into the Abandoned Mines, which is one of the more survival horror-y feeling sections of this segment. So one of the criticisms I think that people who want this to be a survival horror game more than an atmospheric experience is that most of the landscapes in survival horror games, or locales for lack of a better word, are tight mansion hallways, tight subways, tight sewers, places where you can't kind of squeeze around every single enemy. And with the case of Heartworm, most of the landscapes are wide and open, so you can just kind of run around pretty much every enemy in the game. It's almost not even worth it to do anything other than save your ammo for the boss fights. With the exception of a few of the statues, you're just doing it to make your life easier. But, you know, for the sake of the experience, I don't think it's meant to be a bullet storm or even, you know, have the same level of tension you would have when the hunters arrive at the mansion at Resident Evil. It's just not that game. So if you're coming to Heartworm with this idea that it's going to be this deep bullet counting experience where you're really making tough decisions of who to kill and when, it's just not gonna be. Alright, so this is one of the... of course, I forgot to reload. This is one of the rougher kind of segments where I actually do bite it. Just kind of went into the battle unprepared. Probably should have been so stingy. Probably shouldn't have let her go lop around. But there she is, flat on her face again, showing off her booty. But I digress. Reload. Let's try this with the old med kit. Another one on the left is going to get salty first. I did not dodge. It really just takes 3 bursts if you have the burst mod installed, which you should have. And then take out the chick on the right. Again, probably should have dodged the wave first. But 2 more bursts. Dunzo. It's a black fence, and I don't see a gate. Was anyone asking you if there was a gate, Sam? It's a weird thing to say. It's like coming up to a brick wall and being like, it's a brick wall. I don't see a door. It's a mountain. I don't see a cave. Just keep it moving. Alright, so this is not Minecraft. I can't go flying through it. I'm just going to stand here for a hot minute and see if she'll stagger from one foot to the other. Alright, there's awesome. Good job. Alright, my newfound prowess with my much healed health. I'm going to get the heck out of dodge here. So most of this level occupies itself with having to locate about 6 switches and hit them so you can get this code off this generator to progress. So there's a lot of exploration in this wilderness level. I felt a little bit of frustration, I think, with this level the most, just because of how spread out it is. There is a boat dock you can unlock, which maybe he added later on, realizing how tedious it was. But I think this is where some people get their complaints from, is just this idea of how vast this area needs to be versus how vast it is. But again, you know, I find myself torn just because of how beautiful these environments are. And, you know, the strength of this game is that you're in a dream. And in a dream, you return to places. You return to places you vacationed when you were younger. And, you know, you get these kind of deep, idyllic reflections. So it's meant to be an experience. I would argue these animations could be shorter. Some of them just kind of really feel elongated in compared to opening or shutting a door.
We're coming to this lookout on a field trip to learn about the stars. At first, the vastness of it all was scary, but as I got older, it became reassuring. Our existence, improbable as it is, seemed to me like a miracle in itself. But that wonder faded over time. These days, I don't feel the same about the stars or anything, really.
So this translates to a simple puzzle that the solution's just kind of printed on a placard somewhere elsewhere on the level. I don't know what the deal is with the tornado or the... Is that supposed to be a chimney in the background? But again, even here, like, that one part is night, but then you come down here and it's daytime. That's it for Darla the Rock. She looked like she was stoned. She was on her own, like a rolling stone. It's enough of that. But the puzzles here are pretty spread out. So your goal is to try to hit these 7 switches and then turn on a Jenny that powers blood to a certain source that you have to pull from. So if you don't know what you're doing and you're just kind of looking at your map, seeing where their static is and static isn't, first of all, this map is pretty spread out, so you really gotta kind of dive into this thing, zoom in, and because it's so spread, you gotta follow these long lines to see where everything connects and find yourself back to the most previous puzzle you got stuck on. So I found this the most difficult of the levels. When this level starts off, you're fighting porcupine dog things that chase you around, and once you kind of clear the forest of those, you're in this idyllic, atmospheric walking simulator of watching these pretty boughs go up and down, down and up. It's almost like a Bob Ross painting that Sam got lost in. So people who are struggling with the lack of tension in this being a survival horror game, I get it at times, but I'm also torn, because if you're here for the experience, the strength of what Heartworm is, I think it's pretty easy to get through, and there's a lot of good walkthroughs online to kind of get you back on track. Alright, I'm just gonna pop on ahead here to everybody's favorite puzzle of all time, the box pushing puzzle. Yes! No adventure game would be complete without the box pushing puzzle. So, to be in all fairness, this one just kind of exists. It's very, very simple, the solution. It's not like there's been some infamously bad games with so much box pushing puzzles that just go on and on. Like this, almost is, it's so easy it doesn't really have a reason to exist. I'm just gonna go to the right, push this box up, and then kind of finagle the other two until I can get through there. And I can just fit in this little crack and push this one back and the other one forward, and I'm just gonna end up through. It's almost to the point where there's really no need that it exists at all. I wasn't dying to have this huge mathematical puzzle with only one solution, but this is almost like the other way, where it's so tedious for the sake of existing. Like, you know what to do, you just have to go through the tedium of doing it. Done and done. Alright, I'm gonna skip ahead one more time, get into some combat for the sake of showing you a wolf porcupine thing. I guess it's supposed to just be like some sort of moss mutt, but they're very Resident Evil dog. They're one of the few things I will say you feel like you really have to take out because they're fast and obnoxious. You can navigate them, but it's just a pain. There's no way you should hoard ammo in this game. So there's no... This was the only time in the game... Gotta get another one of my mongooses so I can get that possum or furry costume for Sam. Need Sam in a furry costume in my next playthrough. Awesome. So, yeah, the porcupine wolves are a pain. There's a lot of them. I felt like I was going to soft lock on ammo at this point in the game, but then they just dump so many supplies at you in the last act, it's not even funny. I probably had 100 rounds of ammo and about 9 med kits. So she comes across Ever-Loving Bambi here, and Ever-Loving Bambi is this giant solution to basically the last puzzle in the level. And because I probably got lost in this maze about 5 dozen times, I just looked at Bambi so many damn times, and he just became like background. So by the time I needed him to solve the puzzle, found the item I was supposed to use on him, I just was like, it's that stupid gutted deer again. Sam's nature walk continues. The horror. So here's the solution to the constellation puzzle. If you just kind of follow this story and you click on the constellations in the orders it tells you about them, you're pretty much gold. But now I was kind of left staring at my map, trying to remember how the heck to get back to that area. Just because, again, this area is so big. This was probably the only time I got kind of frustrated with the game. So there's this weird... Sam makes this quip about the dogs. There's this weird event where these two respawn. And it's weird because, like, every now and again, the developers throw these little curveballs at you, but it's like they're so one-off that, you know, it's kind of like the camera mod. You get the camera mod and you're told you can unequip it to add new camera mods, and then there's no new camera mods. And then you get this area where the guys respawn in this kind of cutscene sort of fashion, and she makes a joke about it, but that only happens once. And then there's cigarettes that do nothing. So, you know, the game has these ideas that I'd like to see more of, or just develop a little further. And that's, you know, but again, like, I have a hard time criticizing this game just because it's such a beautiful experience and it's so worth your time. Alright, well, it's time to wrap this one up. We will return in part 4.
Whoa! This hall is dangerous!